Brute damage breakdown. Let's look at what the brutes can actually do. Thanks to all my patrons. Why Buried makes good art. Buy some dice. Okay, so here in the top left corner, so I broke down how much damage brutes, 5 brutes will do against various saves. So I like to most commonly look at a 4-up save. That's kind of the number that I like to use most often. I think that's going to be even better in 4th than it was in 3rd. But 5 brutes are going to be dealing like 8 and a quarter damage all by themselves. And that's actually pretty decent. Like that's a fairly, like that's some pretty relatively decent damage. It's nothing to sneeze at. But it starts to kind of go up a little bit when we start getting these buffs. So here at the top here, I have brutes when they're versus infantry, because most of them, their main damage profile is going to go up. +1 rend, right? Let's just hold on a sec. Iron Jaws, faction, focus. We'll just pull up the Iron Jaws profile just really quick, or the brutes profile, just in case you're not exactly sure what we're talking about here. Right, still 3 wounds though. Big fan of brutes. So they have this anti-infantry +1 rend, and then 4 of them are going to be brute weapons, and then 1 of them is going to be the gore choppa, and the champion is a brute weapon, so it's 1 additional dice. So it's going to be 13 of these attacks, and then 3 of the gore choppa attacks, all at 4s and 3s. But this anti-infantry +1 rend means that we're going to have 2 rend against infantry. Okay. Yeah, 3-up save brutes. Here we go. 3-up save brutes. Yeah. So against infantry, this is the worst buff that they have. So I've included versus infantry if they get their Wa, if they get Bcalm lads cast upon them, which is crit, which is exploding 6s. It gives them exploding 6s. All out attack, the kill a beat, and then everything at the very end. So against infantry, we're gaining another like damage and a half. So not as much damage as you would think. We're still not hitting that 10-point mark at the 4-up save. So like brutes will kill 10. Well, they'll just kill a unit of gut rippas, right? No, sorry. They'll kill 5 gut rippas. So brutes will kill 5 infantry relatively consistently with no buffs. These are the kind of things that I think matter a lot when you're like playing the game, right? Like when I make little flashcards for myself, like War Scroll cards almost, right? For brutes, on the back, I'm going to have a couple notes. One note is going to be that they'll take out a 5-up save, 10 wound unit if they're infantry consistently. I can sort of plan around that and be like, okay, you have, like 5 Tree Seeker Revenants or something. I'm like, well, I can move into you and kill you. I don't have to worry too much about it. I hope I don't roll terribly, right? But I have a lot of dice throwing at you, so I'm going to probably be able to kill you. But they're not at that 20 mark, right? Which is where you would kill a unit of gut rippas. So if I call the Iron Jaws Wa, I get 1 more attack, and I'm seeing another slight increase in damage. So this is, of course, the Wa without them being infantry, right? I'm only counting the Wa buff. But the Wa buff is better than the infantry buff, and we're going up 2.5 damage points here. Bcalm lads is the exploding 6s buff, and it's a little bit better than calling the Wa. And we're going up about 3 damage points, just under 3 damage points. All out attack and Bcalm are identical in terms of their math. So obviously together they stack better, right? Like you'll get more damage if you have both of these things together. But if you can get Bcalm lads off, that's kind of what all out attack is. And now against 4-ups, we're dealing over that 10-point damage threshold, right? So now, if you are going into a squad that like 5 models, 10 wounds on a 4-up save, brutes need a little bit extra help to be able to kill them. And this is why, again, we look at these numbers, right? It's like, well, when you're sitting at the table, it's like, yeah, like I want the brutes to kill that unit, and I want them just to kill the unit. So what do I need to do to the brutes? Like what buffs do I need to put on the brutes to make sure that those units actually die? It's like, well, worst case scenario, you can kind of all out attack them and you should be able to wipe 5 of those models off the table, right? Kilobeat is our best buff, and it takes us from about 8 and change to about 12, so the damage increase is pretty significant here. We're almost at a 50% damage increase, and I think we're going to see that pretty consistently, where Kilobeat is going to be doing some of our best damage in the game. I just made a video about War Chanters, how they can generate an extra D3 points, and this is what I'm talking about. Kilobeat is actually really strong, so anything that makes Kilobeat stronger is, you know, better, right? And then if a 5 squad of brutes have everything, so this is if they're fighting infantry on the WA turn with Bcalm lads and all-out attack and Kilobeat, the damage just blows up, right? And gets to about 31.02. So you can see how like different, like if it's the WA turn and you have Bcalm lads and you have all-out attack but not Kilobeat, you can sort of predict, you know, you'll be in that like 25 damage range, certainly more than 20. Right, so now you're sort of getting into range. Once you start stacking a whole bunch of buffs on brutes, now they're in that range where they're going to kill a unit of gut rippers. Now they're in the range where they're going to kill, you know, if they have all of these buffs on them, they're going to take out a unit of Ardboys, right? They'll be sitting at like 25 damage. So if you can throw all these buffs on top of brutes, like they're just going to be a menace. I really see Ironjaws right now with like pigs running up the flanks, brutes marching up the middle, and like some monster like a Maw Crusher sitting in the back. I don't know how Ardboys will fare, because like why do you need to sit something on your back objective if you have pigs running around? But we'll see. Like this is all just speculation. And then the damage numbers get kind of crazy when you reinforce brutes. I always played reinforced brutes when I played like Ironjaws and Big Wa. I liked me a 10-man squad of brutes. I think 10 brutes are going to be even better next edition, just because of 3-inch fighting, and because they're on a 3-up save, and because the way that rally works now, we're going to be able to actually kind of like, you know, maybe bring a few brutes back and hold on to a good chunk of that unit of brutes. So now against a 5-up save or against a 4-up save, we're dealing over 15 damage without having to do any kind of no buffs at all. So now if it's like a unit of gut rippers, 10 brutes just deletes 10 gut rippers. Not consistently, we're under that average 20 damage mark, but you know, if you push 10 brutes into 10 gut rippers, you're expecting only 1 or 2, maybe 3 gut rippers to be left alive at the end of that, because you're pushing almost 20 damage. Right now the things are really kind of melting, and this is where like I think 10 brutes is going to be like prime. It's like my 10 infantry brick is going to eat your 10 model infantry brick like every time. And then once we get versus infantry, so now again versus gut rippers, they're definitely going down with 22 and 2/3 damage on average, right? And then, you know, if they're on a 4-up save or even a 3-up save, it's like we're dealing 15 wounds against a 3-up save if they're infantry. Like, nom 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 nom. We are just going to devour them. Wa, then again, is our next best buff, putting us at 21 1/3 damage against 4-up saves. Quite good. Bcalm is comparable to the Wa ability, and all-out attack is sort of in this realm too. So, you know, +1 attacks, crits, explode, or crits, extra hit, I guess it's called, +1, whatever it is, and all-out attack are all kind of putting us over that 20 damage mark at 4-up save. So again, it's like you have 10 models, 2 wounds on a 4-up save. Well, if I call my Wa, they're dead. If I put Bcalm lads on them, they're dead. And if I use all-out attack, they're dead. And if I use some combination of those abilities, they're certainly dead. You know, it's like, it's really important and good to know. It's good to know not like the specific numbers, but just have an understanding in the back of your head, like what you can sort of predict and expect against these models. Like we've all done this before, where we've thrown a unit into another unit and done way less damage than we hoped, even if our rolls were decent. And brutes throw a lot of dice, right? Like that's one thing about Ironjaws I think that people are going to kind of learn once we start playing. But if you have a lot of dice, right, the more dice that you throw, the more that your the average, the more likely you are to be close to the average. If you're only throwing 1 die and it deals 100 damage, right? Like, it's really inconsistent. You can't really predict the outcome of that and plan around it, right? But if you're throwing 100 dice and each one does 1 damage, you're going to be doing roughly 50 damage every single time, right? The more dice you throw, the more close to the average you are more often. So 3 attacks, you know, is a fair number of dice, right? Like we're throwing with these brutes, you know, we're throwing 31 dice for a block of 10, right? We're throwing 31 dice, which is pretty good. And on a Wah, we're throwing 41 dice. So the Wah is going to be way more consistent than the other ones, right? So I guess it should technically be on the right because it's a better buff than Bcalm and all out attack, right? But also just keep in mind too that with Goredrag, he gives us all out attack if we're close to him on the Wah turn. So it's like we get both of these buffs kind of simultaneously if we're close to Goredrag, right? And then Kill and Beat at the end, right? Again, just like our better buff, and it's a multiplier. So you know, I think that Kill and Beat is even better if we're also using, you know, the Wah and Bcalm lads and all this. And then with everything against a 4-out attack, brutes are dealing over 60 damage. So I don't even know like what to say about that. They peak out at 72 or about 73 damage. So yeah, that's a lot, right? It would have been enough to take out a double reinforced Squig Herd without a 5-up ward, just, you know, 36 models with 2 wounds each. You know, it would have been enough to eat a whole double reinforced Squig Herd brick in 3rd edition. So, yeah, if you just plan on... This is sort of what I was saying about how I think we're going to see lots of brutes. I don't know if we'll see a ton of Ardboys in Big Wah. Or, sorry, in Iron Jaws. It's really impossible to predict, of course, right? It's impossible to predict. But the damage output of brutes is just ridiculous. And they have 3 wounds. They're 3 wounds each on a 4-up save. Sorry, on a 3-up save. There are 3 wounds each on a 3-up save. They're 3 wounds each on a 3-up save. I don't know. I like it's 30 wounds on a 3-up save. You know, like get out of here. Like all out defense is still a thing, right? So yeah, feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. What do you think of the brutes? Are you excited to put them on the table? I sure am. I hope we get a 3d6 charge somewhere in this Iron Jaws book. But until we find out for sure, like, subscribe, and Wah.